Hello, welcome everybody. Good evening. Welcome back to another Anonymous Live. We're going to give everybody a second to get in here before we jump into things. I've been told we need a countdown on this stream by our mods. It's been a suggestion because it takes people a second to get in. But yeah, we'll just stall here for a second and then we'll dive in. This is a very laid-back stream. If you're new here, might be a very different kind of place than you're used to. This is not entertainment. This is not entertaining. We will be here just for a couple hours listening to anonymous callers. We have no idea who's calling in, what they're calling about. Far cry from entertainment, but this is just a chill place. We like to do this to encourage people to be good friends, be good neighbors. If people are going through a hard time, it can, it can be difficult to talk about certain things with certain people. And so we do this to kind of encourage people to be chill and listen more. I'll do a lot of listening. The chat will listen with me. The chat is an invaluable part of this stream. And then by the end of the stream, the chat, and the stream replay serves as a resource to the callers to go pour through comments, just get alternative perspectives on their situations. This is a great place to call and confess something, call and get something off your chest, vent something, think out loud about something, just get a different perspective. This is not a career advice show, not a life advice show, not a dating advice show. I'm happy to spitball some things with you if that's what you're after, if you're after a different perspective, like I said, but these are the disclaimers. We also have a Discord server that is an extension of this project. It's totally free to you to use. It's budding into a beautiful community of people who are in there every day just chatting. Some people, we have support channels. Some people go in there and with a group to talk about something. We also have one-on-one support channels. None of these people in the Anonymous Live server are, you're not going to get therapy in there. It's just a place where good people hang out. And we have a team of moderators that keep that place clean. And, it's, there's always some trolls in every forum or Discord channel, but we do our best and our mods do an amazing job of keeping that place clean. And it's an amazing place. The link is in the description for the Discord server. Like I said, it's totally free. And yeah, lines are opening now. I will also take this opportunity to say while we're getting lines open, a couple of announcements. I don't like going crazy with announcements on Anonymous Live because it's not really about my channel. This is, in fact, I've wondered if it might be better to do this on a different channel because it's so not, it's so atypical for the history of my channel to do this stream here. But there is so much coming here on this channel the next week and a half. Buckle up. I will say no more, but buckle up. Here we go. It's happening. So much is coming. New B story. A new comedy music video next week. Watch out, guys. It's going to be crazy. Okay, lines are open. And we will wait here for a second. I saw a couple calls coming in towards the end of the announcements, but I was already in midair. And then they stopped because I was talking about announcements. So good time to call back now. We'll chill here for a second. I'll pour myself some more water. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hey, Julian. I don't know if the caller ID came up or not.
Yeah, you were a caller that you gave me permission to save your number because you were going to call back. You are Luke Skywalker. That's the name we gave you, right?
Yeah.
So great to hear back from you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay today, at least. So I guess that's the best anyone can hope for. I'm just trying to take it day by day. Like I said last time, some days are better than others, and last time I called, I was kind of out of it. But I went
Could
back.
you give us a brief recap of your story and what you were going through for those who may not remember, and also to refresh my memory because it's been a few weeks since we spoke. I remember speaking to you, but it would be helpful to rehash. If you can just give
Yeah.
us the cliff notes of it.
Yeah, so Cliff Note version, basically I took care of my dad. He got diagnosed when I was 15 with cancer, lung cancer, and then he died when I was 17. He left me everything, and I had three older half-siblings on my father's side that took everything he left from me, even though they already had their own houses and kids, and they already had their own money and everything. They took the house and the money and everything he left for me, and then
That's right.
they took out a student loan in my name, even though I was valedictorian. And essentially, I took it to court, and I didn't ask for any of the money or house or anything. I just asked that they get the loan removed. And now I'm I thought I was doing the right thing, being brave, and now I'm going through it all again, essentially kind of the same situation with my grandmother that I now take care of, who's more like my mother than anything. Things were supposed to go to me, and they're at it again.
So the plot is thickening, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not the same people. So it's my grandmother's son, who was never really around. Like I said last time, like me and my dad were always the ones that took care of her and were there. And my grandfather, who was of no relation to me or my father, we took care of him, and he left everything to my father. It was to stay in my grandmother's name as a life estate until she passed, and then it was to pass to my father and then to me. But of course, my father wound up passing before my grandmother, so the life estate just remained in her name. And then she signed over the property to her other son, which she said she wished she never would have done, because her son promised that he would stay and take care of her forever, which he didn't. I'm now taking care of her, like she lives with me and everything. And I tried to tell her that that would happen the second she signed it, but she didn't believe me. And then when she signed it, she realized that I was right, and now she like tells me all the time, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry" and everything. And I'm like, it's fine, it's whatever. Like I'm taking care of you. Like the main thing that I'm dealing with now is just wishing that they would like leave me alone and stop, harassing me and things like that, spreading rumors.
My gosh.
Yeah, like I told my friend that came over the other day, like not too long ago, that came over. So I was like, I feel like it's it's too much just to go through once. Like I feel like I'm having to do it again. And I was like, I just broke down crying, and I was like, it's not fair. Like why? I feel like I did the right thing. Like I took the stand. I was brave. I stood up for myself once, and like now I just have to deal with the same thing all over again with the only other, like, she's literally the last family member I have left. And she was basically my mother, because I didn't have a mom growing up, So she basically helped raise me. And so it really sucks it really sucks that I have to go through that with my father, and now having to go through that with my grandmother. And by the way, she's been in the hospital, like literally so I called you on a Thursday. The day after I got off that phone call with you, she went into the hospital that Friday, and she has not gotten out. She's had really bad pneumonia. I think she's just now hopefully getting over it. They're going to send her like into inpatient rehab physical therapy so that she can get like some strength back. But it's just been a crap show.
I'm so sorry to hear that. That sounds like I can hear the exhaustion in your voice. I mean, what do you, it sounds like you don't really know these family members too well, at least. They haven't been in the picture. So they're just coming out of the woodworks for money? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, like I like to just call it the vultures, like essentially.
Right.
Like, yeah, like
That's sick.
they sense somebody's old or like somebody's about to die, and like they either wait till they die or when they sense they're getting old and stuff, and they just like swarm and try to see what they can get, and it sucks. And it's like, where were you when I was 15, picking my father up out of the bathtub by myself, literally breaking my back from lifting him out of the bathtub? Where were you then? Like, why'd you wait till he died?
Right.
It just, it really sucks. But today was a good day. So it's been like a roller coaster. And like you said, you can hear the exhaustion in my voice. I think overall, that's what I'm just feeling, is just exhausted, just physically, mentally. It's been awful, but I've been really, like, I scared myself for a while. Like the week after I got off the phone with you, I scared myself pretty bad because, like, I didn't care if I died or not. Like, it got to the point where my husband had went to work one day, and I had a bottle of pills in my hand and of a revolver next to me, and I was pretty much like, which one should I use? Like, I don't want to leave a mess, so I'll just take the pills. But then I didn't take the pills because I was like, well, I've got to get the house clean and I've got bills to pay, so let me just not leave anything unfinished. So let me just wait and get that done before. And
Was that this in the
I
last
mean,
few weeks since we spoke?
yeah, it's been really rough, and it got so bad to the point where the friend that I told you about that came over here, I called him and left a voice message and told him, I was like, look, you've got to take care of Tyler. Like, you've got to take care of my husband. Just know that, like, if anything happens to me, this is where my will is. Go in there. My life insurance policy is in there. It probably won't pay out, but, like, this is where my things are. You've got to stay on top of him, make sure he pays bills. You've got to be there for him. And I was like, I just told him, I was like, just thank you for everything. You were there. You were the only one that would give me rides, and help me when my dad was sick. So, like, just thank you for helping me through everything. But I need you to be there for my husband if something happens. And I left him that voicemail, and I guess he got the voicemail. And so he called the police, and the police showed up to my house, and they were like, is everything okay or whatever? I had a broom in my hand because at that point I had given up on the whole idea. I told myself, no, you're going to clean the house first. You got to make sure everything looks good for a memorial service. So I answered the door with the cop there with a broom in my hand, and I just acted like everything was just completely fine. And he was like, are you and the boyfriend fighting? And I'm like, no, I have no clue what you're talking about. Like, I'm married. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just acted completely like I had no clue, which I felt bad about, but getting me committed would just make things worse, honestly, because I'm the one that, like, if I'm not here, if I'm not present taking care of things, everything would just fall apart. So that's why I'm trying to wait at least until I get my shit together. And I figure either one of two things will happen when I get my shit together. Either I'll want to live because all my shit will be together, or I can at least go in peace knowing that I'm not leaving behind unfinished business.
So it sounds like
I
you're
know
still
that
struggling with the ideation.
I know it sounds awful. I know it sounds really bad.
I don't judge you for that. I mean, I don't like to hear it because I care. I care when somebody says that. Um, this is a place where you can say whatever you need to say. I'm not here to judge you. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Um,
Yeah.
you're under a lot. Cito from the chat says to you, you are very strong. And you must be to pull yourself out of that in that moment when those thoughts were creeping up, and instead to realize the mess it would leave and to instead pick up a broom. I can't imagine what kind of strength that takes.
I was so close to. Like really, like when I look back on it, it really scared me because I was really that close. Like I had the pills in my hand and everything. And
keep going. Yeah, go ahead. The floor is yours.
No, if you say what you're gonna say, because I don't even know what I was gonna say.
There is a lighter day in your future, in your very near future. How can I say that with certainty? Well, I mean, these family members, I'm not saying it's going to be good when you lose these people that are so dear to you, but this family that's coming out of the woodworks to get money from living wills, my point is that can't go on forever. At some point, this is going to fizzle out, and the stress that you are under right now, you're under so much stress. There is a day in your future where that stress won't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find hope in that idea?
I don't know, because some days like today is okay, but other days I'm like, even after she passes or whatever, I feel like they're still just not gonna leave me the hell alone. Like I feel like things aren't gonna get any better, and I know I shouldn't think like that, but I can't help but not, hard to explain, but yeah, like some days I'm able, like some days I'm able to see things clearly, and other days it's hard because they just like they're just vicious. They're like literally they're like snakes, and just another thing I just want to unload is like. It gets even worse because the last text message that my father sent to his brother was a very upset message. Basically, my father was telling him off about what he did. So essentially, so my grandmother has two pieces of property. One property is smaller than the other one, and it's like basically just land. The other one is a bigger piece of property with a house. So it was with the understanding that my father's brother would get the smaller piece of property because he didn't stay there and help, wipe my grandfather or help out at all. Like he was always gone, and me and my dad were the ones that did everything. So it was only fair that my dad got the house, and my uncle would get the smaller property. Well, both pieces of property were in my dad's name, but my grandmother trusted my father to do the right thing and sign the other half over to Donnie when she passed. Or, sorry, I shouldn't have said a name.
Oh, you said a name. Oh, boy. Oh. I don't want to know who that person is. You're mentioning a lot of different people. There's a lot of different people in play here. I don't need to know. I don't want to know which one's your dad and which one's the uncle. And I also will need your consent for you to keep talking because you just said a name. I'm not going to toast you because unless, I don't know I honestly don't know what to do in this situation.
I didn't specifically say who he was in the situation.
Right.
Let's just assume he's like someone else. So basically, the smaller piece of property was supposed to go to my uncle. And when my dad was in the hospital on morphine, and it wasn't like right before he died, but it was close to around the time he died, my uncle came in and made my father sign the papers, signing it to where the bigger piece of property that was supposed to go to my father was in my name, and the smaller piece of property was in my uncle's name. So on the outside looking in, that looks like a great idea. But my dad got upset about it when he was released from the hospital and sent a text message to my uncle saying, like, how dare you do that when I'm in the hospital high on morphine, not knowing what I'm signing. And that was the last text message he ever sent before he died to my uncle. And then when I went to Washington, D.C. for a vacation, basically, I went over there for a vacation with some friends and stuff, and then when I came back, the whole fiasco started with those people that I told you about. Not my uncle, but the other people. And then they came like right after my dad died, and they took me away. And when they took me, they were like, oh, well, you'll never, basically my uncle had gotten in touch with them. And that's why I think my uncle sides with them, is because they helped my uncle get what he wanted out of the deal. So basically my uncle was telling them things like, oh, she'll never come down here again, like, you know, she'll never be here, I'm here taking care of the grandmother or whatever. Basically, she needs to sign over that property to me and I'll give her the smaller property. So he wanted to trade property. Well, the second I signed that, he left her, and she would call me all the time while I was gone, saying like, oh, she would like say like, oh, like I'm alone for Christmas, or like they left me or something like that. And she was basically living down there alone. And so after the whole thing happened and I started filing reports with the campus police, that's when I decided, after me and my husband had got married, I was like, well, we have to go back down there to take care of her because they just left her. So we went down there and we took care of her. And then the whole time she was telling me like, oh, he's going to give the place back to you because like, he knows you're taking care of me and he knows it's the right thing to do. And he knows you don't have a house because you got, you know, crapped out of yours and stuff. Like, he knows it's the right thing to do. And all the time I'm trying to tell her, like, he's not going to do that. And she wouldn't believe me. And then, of course, he wasn't going to do that. He, like, recently had said, like, oh, well, since they bought a house and whatever, like, I'm going to take this house now or whatever. And I'm like,
so your uncle's cheating you out of the house.
Yeah, and I knew that was going to happen. It just sucks now that I'm in all this debt because I had to be, like, proactive about it, because I knew if I didn't go buy a house, the second that she died, he was going to kick me out. I knew that. Even though she would like to think other things, I knew that was going to happen. And so what happens, like, the second I get a house, he, of course, you know, is, like, trying to renovate the house to sell it or whatever he's going to do with it.
Is your grandma still coherent? Is there something you can do about this while she's still alive?
There's nothing. I mean, she's already signed over the life estate papers to him, so he technically legally owns it. I don't know if you can revoke a life estate that you've already signed. We told her not to sign the papers, but he was making her all these promises like, oh, if you sign it over to me early, then you can get all your stuff out and blah, blah, blah. But he was, like I told you before, he was like throwing my stuff outside of my house, like coming here and just dumping it. And he didn't give us time to get the stuff out. So he just didn't follow up on any of his promises. And he was like, oh, and whatever was yours, like, you can have. But when she tried to get her window unit back, he wouldn't give that to her. And I'm like, she needs it so that we don't run the central AC because, like, it's running up the power bill. Like, I can't pay $300 a month and a $600 mortgage and a $400 car payment and take care of her if I don't work a full-time job. And I can't work a full-time job because somebody has to be home with her. Like, my husband works full-time. I can't work full-time too.
You should, my gut says you should get a consultation with a lawyer, a family court lawyer who, you could probably you can get a consultation for free with most lawyers. They'll give you a 45-minute call or something like that, and you can tell them your deal, and they'll tell you if you have a case. And if you tell them, look, I need you to work on a contingency, meaning I can't pay you anything up front, but if we win, you can get a portion of the winnings. You'll make your money after we win. And if a lawyer believes in your case enough to take it on, they'll tell you in that consultation phone call or face-to-face meeting would be better. My gut says you should seek out a good family court lawyer on the down low. You don't want your family knowing you're doing this because that could inflame a whole bunch of things. But my gut says you should do that. Have you considered that?
I have considered it, but I just feel like, I did the thing with the other family members because of a loan, and that affects my credit, like for a lifetime. And I also did it because they were messing with my husband. And I feel like this time around, it would just purely be for property, and I feel like it's just not even worth it. I would rather just dig myself out of the debt hole by myself and make things on my own rather than fight them for something. Like, sure, it hurts me that they did that, and yeah, I'm gonna ramble about it and stuff, and yeah, it hurts me, but at the end of the day, I feel like if I hired a lawyer and all of that stuff, it's just not worth it. Like, I know other people have sued for less, and I probably do have a case because I have the text message when my father was talking about him being high when he signed the papers on morphine in the hospital. So I know I have a case, but I just don't feel like it's worth it. And also it would put my grandmother through a lot too, because then she's choosing sides, and I don't want to hurt her. So I just feel like it's not
Well, let me
worth
play
it.
devil's
And
advocate for a second at the very least on your behalf. I mean, you told us in the last 3 weeks since we last spoke, you were dealing with suicidal ideation, and that's my heart breaks when I hear that. And so on your behalf, please allow me to say, at least on devil's advocate terms, that what are you sure about that? Are you sure it wouldn't be worth it? I mean, if you can get a lawyer to work on a contingency and you have a case, it sounds like you might even be able to leave your grandmother out of it. I'm asking whether you know that for sure, that you'd have to involve your grandma. I mean, if she's in the hospital, you can just tell the lawyer that in your consultation. Look, my grandmother's got pneumonia. She's been in the hospital for weeks. I'd like to leave her out of this. Is it possible to leave her out of this, or at least just minimize her involvement? And do I still have a case if we leave her out of it? These are things you might consider taking notes on, asking a lawyer, and just think about it. Because, are you sure it wouldn't make a difference having a place to live?
I mean, I have this place. I realize I'm $80,000 in debt in it, but I feel like it really just isn't, because they're already mean enough. And honestly, what I want more than anything isn't even the house. I don't even care that they screwed me over. That's gonna they'll have to pay for that later. It's the same thing with the other people. I didn't even care about the money. I didn't even sue them for all the money that I had proof that they stole and spent on crazy stuff. I didn't care about that. I just wanted the loan out of my name and the restraining order. I feel like all I want is just to be left alone. Like, I'm over here trying to do the right thing. I'm over here being a caregiver. I'm over here taking care of everything, and all I get is just hate. I just want people to just leave me alone. Like, it's not that hard to ask, and I don't know how to get them to leave me alone.
Okay, I hear you now. So, I mean, let me ask you a different question. Again, I don't like talking. It's hard stuff to talk about because you're talking about loved ones passing. But you said that right now you can't get a full-time job and keep up on your bills because you're the only one who will take care of your grandma. When she passes, and she will pass one day, we don't know when. Of course, we're all hoping that it's not in the hospital anytime soon with pneumonia. However, when she does pass, does that make anything simpler for you? Are you gonna can you get a job then? What change? How does your life look different after your grandma does pass?
Yeah. So, like,
And
right now,
can you
because
afford to
she's,
step away? The thought is that can you afford to step away from what was willed for you to have? Can you afford to step away from all that and just get a job?
yeah. And so, like, right now, while she's in the hospital, I've been taking, and I think that's why you hear the exhaustion in my voice. I've been picking up extra hours with my part-time job, and I've been like, this past week, I've worked like 4 days of the week, and I've had to, because we share a car, I've had to run an hour or 2 hours over to a different town, and then an hour down to my job, and then an hour back up to pick my husband, all at, like, getting up at like 3 a.m. so that, I can take him to work, and our schedules and everything with all the driving. It's been so insane. And he's been having to, sit in the parking lot for 3 hours until I get off work, and then wait an hour for me to drive back up there. But yeah, I have been picking up extra hours. So I get what you're saying. Like, when she passes, I probably will be able to pick up extra hours.
Okay, that's good to hear. Does that make you feel any better?
It it makes me feel a little bit better, but not too much better, because I'm also scared. Like I told you last time, I have PCOS. So the reason I lost my last job, because it was full time and it was work from home, but I had to sit in one spot for like 8 hours a day. And because of like the computer and everything the way it was, like I couldn't stand up a lot, and it was like call after call after call. So sitting too long or standing too long puts a lot of like pressure on my uterus and stuff. And so I'm scared that even when she passes, that I might not be able to, and I'm not doing disability. Like my husband has told me, like, oh, get a disability for your back. You pulled it out when you were helping your dad or whatever, and also your PCOS. And I'm like, no, if people can go to work with one leg, I can go to work with all the stuff I have. Like, I'm no way I'm getting disability unless I am on death's door, like in renal failure or something. So
Yeah.
I know it would help out.
I want to be very gentle and delicate with this, because I hear where you are, but I also want to push back on you a little bit, Luke Skywalker. That's why I called you Luke Skywalker on the last call, because you have such an amazing will. You have such a determination. Despite all the chaos around you, you are so determined to be responsible and to do the right thing. And these are beautiful qualities. So I'm not challenging you. I'm not challenging you and saying you shouldn't be that way. I am saying, is it possible you are biting off more than you can chew? Is it possible that maybe one of these things is correct? That maybe it would be good for you to get a disability check, or maybe it would be good to put up a fight in court against these family members who are being greedy. Deanna Krebs, one of our mods, says to you, sometimes putting up a strong fight is a way to make people leave you alone. Now, she just graduated law school and is working on becoming a practicing lawyer. So make of that what you will. But lawyers love to fight. That was a joke. Sorry, Deanna. But the point is like, yeah, is it possible that one of these things is a concession you could make, or that would make your life easier? Is it possible that just like I'm not saying give up on determination, because that's a beautiful quality you have, and it's benefited you, it's benefited your grandmother, it's benefited your father, and you've gotten the short end of the stick from these family members who are distant relatives who were never in the picture, and they're coming out like vultures now. And so, yeah, I mean, you have this beautiful quality that is very rare. It's very rare for someone to have the quality of just walking away from something, even though you have a case. It takes a really strong person to say, you know what, I'd rather have my peace and just be left alone from this mess than to have any money or whatever it is that I'd get from fighting for it, or to take a disability check or whatever it is. But I don't know if it's clear what I'm saying, but is it possible that one of these things can give, and that if you did let one of these things give, it wouldn't be a failure, but it might actually give you a stronger will to live and increase your quality of life?
Yeah, like I get what you're saying. I feel like one of my issues is I'm too, I wouldn't say prideful, but I'm too, like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't want to. Do you know what I'm like getting at? Like, I don't want to be the lesser person for, not turning the other cheek, essentially. I don't know if that makes sense.
I believe in turning the other cheek. I believe that that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to do. I also believe that there are times and places and situations where standing up for what's right is important. If I have 3 kids, if a burglar came into my house and threatened to kill all 4 of us, I wouldn't just say, "Go right ahead, have my youngest first." No, I'd be putting up a damn fight. I'd be getting that guy out of here, or calling the police, calling someone who will fight. My point is, like, turning the other cheek
Yeah.
is there's a time and a place for that. That's a biblical quote. The Bible also says there's a time and place for all things under the sun. So I believe that includes standing up for what's right on occasion.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to be nasty. You can go to court and not be nasty. Most people who go to court are nasty. Court brings out the worst in people. I can tell you firsthand, and you probably know firsthand, if you've ever been to court, it's really difficult to go to court and just be pleasant. It's very difficult, but it's possible. You can do it. You can go to court and be pleasant and say, "Your Honor, this is what's right. Here's my case. I trust you to make the right decision." And you don't have to say anything to the other people. You can ask for a restraining order, so they have to leave you alone. If they show up at your house, you can call the police. They'll go to jail. There are ways to put up a fight without being nasty, is my point. And I hear you don't.
Yeah.
It sounds like you think if you stand up for what's right, you won't be being true to yourself. And I guess that's what I'm questioning. Is that true?
I feel like, yeah, if I stand up for myself right now, that it's not really honorable like it was last time, because last time I was doing it for more honorable reasons, and this time I would be doing it just to get them to leave me alone. I feel like I should just take the mental slap until she passes, and then hopefully be rid of them. And then at that point, if I'm not rid of them, then maybe I'll consider it. So maybe that's a good, like, compromise, like, hold off on it for now, but if they keep on after she passes, like, then do it.
I'm not telling you what to do. I trust you'll make whatever decision is right for you. I'm concerned about you and the stress you're under, and I'm asking you all these questions. I'm not looking to be right. I'm not even claiming to be right. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you're committing to a lot here.
Yeah.
You're committing to a lot here. So we can't overcommit. There's only so much time in the day. That's what you were telling me earlier. That's why you don't have time to get a job. You're taking care of your family full time. So, maybe that means you don't have time to go to court until you have more time on your hands. Fighting a case, a legal battle, is time consuming. You might not
Yeah.
have time to do that. So as long as your grandma is living. So maybe that can wait until you have more mental space. There's statutes of limitations on those things, of course. You can't wait forever. But, like, would a disability check, would that be so bad? I mean, you have your husband's right. Like, you basically have spent your life taking care of others, and it put a tremendous strain on your body, it sounds like. I don't know if that was a figure of speech earlier when you said literally breaking my back to save my father while he was in the bathtub and couldn't get up. I imagine that whether you were... What's that?
Yeah, so I do have a back injury. I mean, I didn't break my back, but when he slipped in the bathtub and I went to catch him, I mean, he was a pretty hefty man. He lost weight from the chemo, but still a 15-year-old catching a grown man, and when he hit me, my back just cracked, and it hasn't been the same.
I mean, your husband has a point there. I mean, I think there's no shame in taking a disability check for something like that. I am pro. I'm very much. This is why I'm not kidding. I'm not getting political here, guys. Please hear what I'm saying. This is to the caller. This is why I pay my taxes. This is why I believe in paying taxes, so that people who need things, neighbors, I believe I'm better off having neighbors, even if they're not like my next door neighbors. Living in a civilization with other people who I can trade with is better than living on my own in the damn woods. And that's why I think it's fine for you to take a disability check. And that's why it's not why everybody pays taxes. I know I just said a hot take there, and I'm not trying to get political, but that's my personal take. I don't care what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter to me what you think. But I'm telling you, the caller, that I believe, at least, there's no shame in taking a disability check if you actually have these things you're talking about. And it sounds like I believe you. I don't think you'd be calling in here saying these things if it wasn't true. So, I mean, I want you to get a break. I want you to catch some kind of break. A disability check sounds like it would be very helpful for you.
And it's another one of those things, I'll consider it, and I feel like it's more of like a future thing, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's just, I don't feel like I have the mental capacity to go through all the paperwork and interviews and doctors and all that.
That's not a good
I
reason.
feel like,
That's not a good reason. I'm not arguing with you, but that's not a good reason. You're under a lot of strain right now, and you're mentioning you're under a lot of debt. Some paperwork and seeing a doctor being the barrier to entry there. That's a not a good reason, I would say. And I'm saying that for you. I hope you understand. I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm saying that on your behalf. That's not a good reason.
yeah.
I'm saying that because I care. I'm saying that because I want you to go
Maybe,
get that disability check tomorrow. I want you to go do it tomorrow.
maybe the honest truth is I just don't feel like I deserve to be taking care of myself.
You do.
Like,
You do. You've spent your whole life taking care of other people, so I could understand why you believe that. But if anything, someone like you deserves it the most. That's why these disability checks exist. That's what they're there for people who have been injured on the job or overextended themselves while caring for others. That's why these programs exist. You deserve it more than anyone. Just as much as anyone who collects that check. And it's not, I think there should be a better name for it. Maybe you don't like it because it's called a disability check, and you are this very determined person, and you don't like the idea that you have a disability. You don't want your ailments to hold you back. But what I'm telling you is like, no, like they should call it like injury compensation or something like that. Like, like disability is like a horrible name. Like, you suffered some bodily injuries doing what you did as a child, and you did the right thing. And that's why these programs exist. So is it possible if you like just renamed it something in your own head just for yourself, you go do all the disability paperwork, but to yourself, you give it a different name, like just call it injury compensation or something. Like you are who these things are for, and it doesn't make you weak. It means it's validation that you were strong. That's what it is. It doesn't make you weak. It's validation that you were strong and noble and did the right thing.
I will make you a promise that I will spend more time seriously considering it, but I don't know if I will or not, but I'll at least more seriously consider it.
I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm relieved to hear that you're going to seriously consider it. I want you to catch some kind of break. There's so many things from the chat I wanted to get to. Where's that one? Ray Mag says to you, I will try to say this in a concise way, but you sound like a strong, resilient individual. It's hard when everyone depends on you, even when you are at your weakest. I think it proves how tough you are. And I fully agree.
I do want to say a couple things. Like like today, like I said, was a pretty good day. The last time I called in, I was really upset because they had sent a message to my grandmother basically saying like, oh, why don't you sue me and have it to where their children and my children can't have contact and I can't have contact with them. And that was an order that the other people had put in the case, and they weren't supposed to discuss details about the case. So there was no way that my uncle could have known that to send that message if they wouldn't have broken their contract and went and told them that. So I was really upset when I found out about that message, and it just had me in a full-blown panic attack. And I called, and I will be completely honest, Julian, like, I don't know what the heck we talked about until I went back and watched it a couple days later. I was completely blacked out when I was on the phone with you, and now that I've gone back and rewatched it, I get that you were trying your hardest to get it through my thick skull that it wasn't my fault that my dad died. And I get that now going back and watching it, but in the moment I was just like completely blacked out and upset about it. And I did read that book that you recommended as well. And you were worried about the introduction. The one about the Native American, the Four Agreements.
Oh, the Four Agreements. You read it. Okay, great.
Yeah, and so you were worried about the introduction, but the introduction was my most favorite part about the entire book. So
I love the introduction. I didn't know your religious affiliation, and it sounded like maybe you were Christian, and I know some Christians don't like that introduction. So glad to hear you enjoyed it.
So I'm kind of like Messianic Judaism, essentially. Like basically, like I practice some of the older like traditions. Like I like to look into that, but I'm also a Christian. Like I believe in Jesus and all that. But I also believe that everything has a spirit or a force, a force, I guess you would call it. But like I call it God, but you can call it a force if you want to. Basically, there's this force like moving through everything. So I thought that was
you're
really
Luke Skywalker.
Interesting. Yeah.
You said it.
So yeah, when the book talks about like everything in the universe has this force and everything, I just thought of dark matter, like how it makes up most of the universe, but we don't know what it is. And I like to think of it as the force, like, and also it talked about, there was this one part where it talked about him leaving his body or whatever, and I thought of transcendental meditation because my dad used to teach me to practice that as a kid, and I thought that was so interesting. So I'm really into science and like meditation and all that. So I absolutely loved the introduction. That really hit with me.
Well, I want you to make me a promise at the very least. If you're not going to promise me, you're going to, promising me you're going to consider getting that, I'm going to call it your ability check instead of a disability check. promising me that you're going to consider that isn't much of a promise. So make me a different promise. Promise me you'll at least go through and since you told me you were kind of out of sorts on our last call and you didn't really remember half of what we said until you rewatched it, at least promise me you'll rewatch this at a later time and that you'll read the chat, because there were so many things, there were so many messages to you in this that I didn't get to. It's why we gave you a name and asked if you'd call back. You resonated with all of the chat in the last time you called in, and we were all concerned and we wanted to hear some kind of update. We asked you if we could give you a pseudonym and put you in the phone book. You said yes, and now you're here, and the chat has been flooded with messages. I haven't been able to keep up. Sorry, chat. Just been listening. Featured a couple things, but at least promise me you'll rewatch this at another time and read what people are saying to you, and chat if you have any thoughts on which direction you think you'd like to, it might be helpful for the caller to consider. Of course, we're not telling the caller what to do. We can't do that. It's up to the caller to make the decisions. But I do feel like you're under this tremendous pressure because you've committed to so much, and part of it's just like you've stepped up because nobody else was going to step up. And so I guess I'm saying like something has to give if you are where you are. It doesn't sound like you can get therapy. And something it sounds like something has to give. And I wonder what that's going to be. It can't be you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
Any
like
of these other things would be better than you giving more than you already have.
Yeah. I feel like calling in is really, really helping me. I think that's the closest I can get to therapy because, right now I can't really afford it. But, when I say I can't afford it, like, we don't go, like, people sometimes say, oh, I can't afford things, and then they go out to eat or whatever. Like, I don't leave the house unless I am going to work or running an errand. I have no life, essentially, other than paying bills. That's how much in the hole we are, and it's ridiculous. So I get no fun relief. Like, this call is probably the most fun I've had since my wedding. Honestly,
you're under a lot. You've been under a lot for a long time. That's what I'm saying. Something has to give. A disability check would let you go to a restaurant, for crying out loud. You're telling me you don't want to go get a disability check, and you're saying you can't even go to a restaurant. I mean, like, something's got to give. I'm being direct because every time I make a suggestion or something to think about, you just say, well, I'm not going to do that because X, Y, Z. And I'm saying, look, like, I don't like hearing that after you told me that you had a revolver and some pills on your table and you were looking at both of them. And I'm saying, I'm being very direct, but it's because I care about you. And I'm saying it sounds like something has to give. And you can't give any more than you already have. You've given your whole life to your family. It's so noble. And I'm saying now it's your time. Someone in the chat said that earlier. I can't remember who said it. It's too far for me to go back. But somebody in the chat said, it was when we were talking about collecting the disability check. Somebody said to you, this is your time. You gave your whole life to your family. This is your time. And they were encouraging you to, not be so opposed to collecting disability. Something that sounds like is going to give. Because you can't give anymore.
I feel like, and I told my friend this too, I was like, I feel like I won't be able to grieve until she's gone. Like, I haven't even gotten to grieve my father. Like, I won't be able to grieve until she's gone, and then I'll have to grieve both of them at once because it's just been one thing after the other, and I feel like I won't be able to catch a break until then, but I don't want her to go. So it's like a catch-22. Like, I don't want her to go, but I know that I won't be able to exhale essentially until she is, because I won't have them off of my back until then, and I'm just hoping by that point then they're off my back after she's gone.
Maybe. Offcore, one of our mods, says to you, would the money from the disability check be enough to cover therapy? Another reason to reconsider, which is an excellent point. I'm sure a disability check, I'm almost positive it would be enough to at least get 1 or 2 sessions a month and go to a restaurant once a month. I mean, like, you deserve so much. I don't know if you realize it. You have because we got to wind down the call here soon. You can call again anytime, but we try to keep calls here to 30 minutes. And I want you to call again. I'm gonna keep you in as Luke Skywalker, and I'll keep an eye out for your name. You call back anytime you need to talk. But we
Okay.
are gonna. I do need to wind it down for tonight, and because there's a bunch of other calls coming in, and I'm trying to keep this place open. It's hard to do that. I always
Yeah.
it's always both times we've talked, we've had very deep conversations, and you've shared a lot. I appreciate the way you use this place. You're under so much. You can call again anytime, but I want to leave you with this thought.
Mhm.
You have spent your whole life giving to other people. And I hear the voice of somebody who has just gotten used to that, has just gotten used to being the servant. And everything in life comes full circle, including life itself, until at the day that our bodies stop working and we die. Everything comes full circle, and there's a yin and yang to everything. Everything is in balance, is what I'm saying. And the first chapter of your life, the very first chapter, was spent being a servant, and it was a very noble thing that you did. You stepped up when nobody else would. And I want you to consider if you have like just gotten used to operate, if that's your comfort zone now, consider whether or not that you've committed to that as a comfort zone. Like it's your comfort zone to just be in this place, to not take anything from anybody. Maybe consider if that's why
Mhm.
you have a hard time collecting a disability check, for example. Maybe consider if that's why you have a hard time putting up a fight in court for something that's rightfully yours. Um, Consider these things, and review the replay when you have time later after it's getting late. It's hard to remember things when it gets late. I want you to read the chat and just see what everybody's saying to you, because there's so much love going out to you. And like I said, I want you to call back again sometime. Call again anytime. Um, Lines are always open to you. Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, thank you. 100% everything that you just said is true. Thank you so much. And would there be a better day to call in than others? Because I'm scared I'm going to take up too much time from people. So, like maybe once a month, once every other month. When do you want me to call in?
You call in if you're. I mean, if you're. Uh, you can call anytime. I answer calls randomly. I did see your name pop up, and it had been a few weeks, and so I answered it. I try to answer randomly. It's a very new thing. It's only you and I think two other people that I've asked to call back, and I've given them pseudonyms. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I can't get into a thing where we're prioritizing callers, because this is an open place for people to call in. But in certain cases, people like you, you're under so much. I want you to be able to call in if you need a listening ear. Um, and So I don't know what answer to give you there, but if you need to talk to someone, just call.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Julian, for everything. You always make me feel better. Thank you. You have a great night.
Same to you. Take care of yourself, and hope to hear from you soon. Good night.
Okay. Bye.
Goodness. All right, chat. I'm gonna go a few minutes late tonight, but I need a minute to just clear my head. That was a long call, uh, and I don't want to jump right back into another call. I think we all might benefit from a 60, 90-second break. Um, I just said 60, 90 on number 69. That's funny. That wasn't even planned. Yeah, give me a minute or two, and then we'll go a little bit late tonight. Uh, so I'll just take a second, and I'll be right back. It's amazing what 60 seconds of foam rolling can do. If you're just joining, we're listening to anonymous callers. We have a 1-800 number here. Anyone can call, make a confession, vent something, share something, and just we ask you remain completely anonymous. No names, no locations. We toast you if you do that. That means we hang up. Read the description before calling in. Also encourage people to very carefully listen to the phone menu instructions before calling in if it's your first time, just to make sure your anonymity stays intact. And here we go. Hello, thanks for calling. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, can we start with your age and a brief intro?
Sorry, one more time?
Can you turn your speakers down? I'm getting some feedback.
Oh, yes, of course. How about now?
Can you turn your speakers all the way off?
Yeah, of course.
Toast. That was not what I meant to do. That's the toast sound. Guys, ask if you call in, have your speakers down. That is in the instructions. We do that just to, there's so many people calling in whenever we do these. And so I toasted that caller. Caller, I'm really sorry, my friend. I toasted you because you weren't ready. Here we go. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hi. I have actually called in before.
You called in before?
Yes, I have. The last time I called was a couple of months ago, though.
Okay. Can we start with your age and then a brief recap on what we talked about?
My age is 28, and previously before we've talked about my schizophrenia and a variety of other different things, but mostly talked about my schizophrenia and my struggles with that.
Okay. How's it going? What's the update?
Well, I do have a great update, actually.
Great.
Part of why I wanted to call. I have finally think I found the right path that I should be on in life. And that's been feeling amazing.
Amazing.
I want to be a person that teaches English as a foreign language to people in Korea. And I've actually pursued trying to get a job.
Amazing. Great. How's that going?
It's going pretty well, actually. They want me to send an introductory video of myself and answer some questions they have for me, and then they're going to set up an interview with me.
Amazing.
Yeah. I felt really proud of myself for once because usually I hate myself a lot, but lately I've been looking in the mirror going, hey, you're doing something right. The only thing that sucked about it, thank you. The only thing that sucked about it is
I just want to say real quick. I realize you mentioned teaching English to Koreans. Please just don't mention where you're going to be going to do that, or just.
I won't mention that at all. I know we want to keep anonymity.
Yeah, just making sure we were on the same page there. Keep going.
Well, the only thing that sucks about all of this is I don't feel very supported by my family, which really hurts because every time I try to talk to my mother, she basically tells me that this is an unrealistic expectation or whatever. And I'm like, how is it unrealistic? Because she's like, because you'd have to go to college and you'd have to attend those first 2 years of college doing just the base classes. And whenever I talk about going to school, I only talk about going to learn the linguistics of Korean. And my mom is like, you're being unrealistic here. I'm like, Mom, just because I'm not talking about the first 2 years of college doesn't mean I don't know that. And I'm prepared for that. And she's always just like, no, you're not thinking far ahead enough. And I'm like, it just hurts. because I feel like I'm on the right path and everybody that's around me doesn't agree with me. They think I'm making a mistake.
Well, it sounds like you struggled for a while identifying something that you might be able to, a job that you might be able to hold down with your schizophrenia. And it sounds like this is something that sparked a huge interest and also you felt would be a good match for you. Is that right?
Yes, because I have always loved language ever since I was a child. And I've been exposed to language ever since I was a child, but my mother wanted me to learn French, and nothing against the French language, but it did not pique my interest. And then for a while I tried to learn Spanish, but that also didn't pique my interest. And then I finally came to Korean, and I was like, that's it. That's the language I want to learn. I want to learn all of the linguistics for it, like, but my parents and my friends and stuff like that are just like, no. That would be a bad idea. And I'm like, why though? It's what's making me feel happy. I haven't felt genuinely happy in a long time, and I'm starting to feel really happy.
Is it just because it's Korean that they don't like it?
No, I think it's just because I've talked with one of my friends about it, and she says that it might be because in my life, I used to live my life for other people. I didn't really have any say in what I could and could not do, or like I was what people wanted me to be, basically. And that's never fun because it felt like no one wanted the real me. They just wanted the version of me that they created, and that was it. And so my friend and I talked about it, and she was just like, I feel like it's just because your mom likes to control you. And I do agree with her because my mom has always been very controlling and smothering over me. Like, don't get me wrong, I love her, but she's always been very smothering. And I don't think she likes the idea of me doing that because it would mean that I'd have to leave and go somewhere. And I don't think she likes that because that means I wouldn't be here, you know?
Right. Off-core, one of our mods says to you, caller, as someone who taught English overseas, it's definitely doable, and it is not as clear-cut as family is suggesting. Also, sometimes they don't want us to leave, which is very true. Sometimes it's hard if the job entails you going somewhere. That can be difficult. Also, Seth Robertson from the chat just put in a great quote from Jim Carrey that's relevant. Seth says, your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world.
True. That is definitely how I felt in the past because every time I tried to be myself, no one liked it. And that's not good for anyone's self-esteem because I just wanted to be me, but nobody else wanted me to be me. And it was hard. Though there is a specific reason I wanted to call in tonight, because I wanted to ask you some like advice and get a perspective on the situation I was in, and just have like a complete outsider's perspective.
Okay, I can't promise advice, but what you got?
I had this friend, and we were best friends for well over a decade. And I miss her so much even to this day, but she was not good for me. And I struggle all the time with missing her and telling myself that I can't go back because she only wanted either me or my sister. She didn't want to be friends with both of us. She didn't want either of us to be friends with each other. She just wanted one or the other. And so she tried to break my sister and I's relationship apart. She tried to make us hate each other. And she said awful things and did awful things. And I never really found out about it until after we weren't in each other's lives anymore. Like, she would talk about how much of a bitch she truly thought I was and how I would make up my autism and schizophrenia and all of my mental health issues up.
and she would say that they're not really real and I just use them like a crutch. And that always hurt because it's like she has bipolar, and when she was discovering she had bipolar, her whole family wasn't supportive of her. I was the only one that was. I was her only champion going, hey, if you really think you have this, go to someone that you can talk to get diagnosed. And then she did, and turns out she did have bipolar. But when she stopped being my friend, she ended up telling me that I was never supportive of her, that I was never there for her, that I was always just selfish and self-absorbed. And that really impacted me because, like I said, I grew up being what people wanted me to be. I was never really myself. And to have someone who I considered my absolute best friend confirm, in my head at least, that I was all of these awful things, it just sticks with me. And I'm not really sure how to get over missing her, I guess. I don't think I'll ever stop missing her, but I really struggle with wanting to go back because I love her.
You don't talk to her anymore?
And no. Last time I spoke to her, we only spoke for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, because I have had previous issues with alcohol, she randomly talked to me about her uncle and how her uncle died because he was an alcoholic and he did a bunch of illegal drugs and he died in his car or whatever. And it was really sad. But then all of a sudden out of nowhere, she started blaming me and saying, I hope that this scares the hell out of you. I hope that you are just afraid when you hear this story. And then she just turned it to be all about me, if that makes sense. Like, all about how I have my alcoholism issues, all about how I can cut myself, or like all these bad habits of mine. And it was just really bad because I was just sitting there like, wait, why is this suddenly about me? Literally not even 2 minutes ago, we were talking about your dead uncle. And now suddenly we're talking about me and my struggles. And she was just like, well, I just feel like you needed to hear it because, you know, and I'm like, what do you mean I needed to hear it? I already knew all of this. And I also pointed out to her that unlike her uncle, I wasn't doing hard drugs. I know alcohol still isn't a good thing, but I wasn't sitting there doing like heroin. I was just messing with alcohol. But she was like, no, it's just bad. You're bad. And I was like, thank you, I guess. And it was just a mess. And I guess I would just really like an outsider's perspective on that type of situation, because there's obviously way more to it, but I don't want to take up a huge, long call.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You've been very efficient at covering a lot of ground. Samuel Scoville from the chat says, you know what you were to this friend. If the friend is not seeing you for what you were to the friend, that is in no way reflective on you as a person. You can love at an arm's length. I think that's right. And I also would ask the question, it sounds like you learned something from this friend, a valuable lesson. What lesson would you say that is?
Honestly, for me, I would feel like it's a lesson of not wearing my heart on my sleeve so much. Because I feel like by wearing my heart on my sleeve with her, that's what got me so hurt. Because I was always just raw and always myself. And she clearly wasn't. Because she talked a lot of bad things about me. And it took only until recently for me to realize that the reason why she said her therapist didn't like me had nothing to do with me, and everything to do with what she had to be telling her therapist about me. And because, like, her therapist doesn't know me, so how could her therapist have come up with an opinion on me unless she was giving her information about me that the therapist wouldn't like? So that opened my eyes and was like, oh, so all these years you have been saying nasty things about me. And I don't even know how nasty they were. I know some, but not all. And it just affects me a lot because there was this one night I was over her house, me and my sister were, and we were playing League of Legends, and then all of a sudden my best friend went missing. And like almost an hour later, I looked at my sister and went, something's not right here. She's been gone for a really long time. I feel like something's happening. And I went upstairs and I found her with a huge indent in her arm as if she tried to slice her arm open. And she clearly had been on something because she wasn't right at all. She was very out of it. And I kept trying to ask her, what did she take? And she lied to me saying she didn't take anything, but it's really obvious when someone has taken something because
Right.
she wasn't being herself. And like I said, she had this huge indent in her arm as if she had tried to slice her arm open. And for her, and that night I ended up having to go up to her grandparents because she lived with her grandparents and wake them up in the middle of the night and be like, your granddaughter needs you right now. And if you don't get down here, I'm calling an ambulance because I'm really worried. And they did end up waking up and going to her and stuff, but it was never the same after that.
Right.
And it
I
always
can
just
see
got
that.
worse. So for me, that would probably be the lesson that I think I learned. So I'm curious what you would think the lesson would be.
Well, it doesn't matter what I think the lesson is. I was asking the question because I think we all can relate to having to distance ourselves from certain people in life for different reasons, and then missing
Yeah.
that person. And the chat definitely seems to light up with you when you say that. So I think that's something we all can appreciate and understand. What I would say to
Yeah.
you is maybe you can thank your friend just subconsciously. You don't have to call them and like say, hey, thank you for teaching me this lesson, this horrible lesson. But like maybe there's some gratitude that you can extend to her into the ether and just, for showing you that
Yeah.
lesson that you learned. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any right or wrong lesson we can learn from things like this. It's whatever's right for the situation. That's why I asked it as a question, because I don't know. It doesn't matter what I think, but
Yeah.
I've healed a lot from relationships like that by just taking on a feeling of gratitude whenever they come to mind, and saying, you know what, that person taught me X, Y, Z, and I can thank them for that. Thank you for that, and then I can just take a deep
Yeah.
breath, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, however many I need, and then move on.
Yeah. It's really hard because she really did say some really awful things about me, and I had to learn them from my sister. I didn't even get to learn them from her. I had to learn them from my sister. And it always sucks when you don't get to hear that information directly from the person and instead have to find it out from someone else. And it was not an easy task. And I tried to confront her about it, and she silenced me. Like the last time I spoke to her, I was trying to talk to her. She did 2 conflicting things. The first day, this happened over a period of 2 days. The first day, I gave her space because she said she wanted space. And so I did. And then later on at night, she was like, why did you just stop talking to me? And I was like, because you said you wanted space. What do you mean? She was like, you should have just kept talking to me. And so then the final day, I kept trying to talk to her, even though she told me she wanted space. And I just kept trying to talk to her and work things out. And she completely blocked me on everything so that I would have no way to contact her ever. And I did not know how to process that because I guess the loss is hard for me because I never got to say goodbye. I never got to tell her what she meant to me or all the lessons she's taught me in life, good and bad. It was just ended right there. And this was all like 2 years ago now, and I'm still not over it because I didn't get to tell her goodbye. I didn't get to part ways with her on good terms. Instead, it was on really, really bad terms. And I guess that's what I don't know how to process, is how to deal with that, the loss. Because we were best friends for over a decade, and it just really hurt to lose that. Because I thought I was going to grow old with her. We talked about it all the time, how we were going to be in our 80s together, looking at stuff we did when we were younger and laughing about it. And then suddenly she was just gone.
Sounds like part of the reason this was so hard is because she said so much shit about you.
Yeah.
And we can't control what people say, unfortunately, because talk is cheap.
No, we can't.
Talk is cheap. I mean, that's why lies exist. Talk is free.
Yeah.
It's not even cheap. It's free. Anybody can say whatever they want, and like half of the liars don't even pay a price for it, because so many of the lies are like things that don't require lawsuits. They're just like little jabs that can turn us into pariahs in our community. And I certainly know what that feels like, to have things said about you that aren't true, and for people to treat you differently after that, for people to take sides when sides are unnecessary, and to deal with stories that never happened, but people believe them to be true. And
Yeah.
that's one of the hardest things I think anyone can go through in life, is to deal with the loss of dear friends due to lies. I don't know how common that experience is, for people to turn into a pariah because of stories or lies. But I know from firsthand experience a number of times that, for whatever reason, I was always a target for people to blame things on, even as a kid. So I've always dealt with that. As an adult, it's just given me a really thick skin whenever it happens. It's also taught me some things about myself that maybe I could work on to avoid that happening, and I've exercised that muscle deliberately. I don't know what that looks like for you. I think it's probably different for everyone, but maybe that's helpful for you to hear. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we can't control what people say.
I can relate. Yeah, no, we can't. I can relate. I've always been a target.
Yeah. And when that happens, I think the best thing you can do is just take the high road and just let the chips fall where they may. I mean, it makes no sense to go chasing people that have heard false stories and say, hey, I heard you heard XYZ, and I just wanted you to know ABC. Like, that goes nowhere. That's a hopeless chase.
No, it doesn't.
Goes nowhere. So I don't know if it's right or wrong, but you're asking how I deal with that personally. I would say I just let the chips fall where they may. I'm not claiming it's the best strategy. It's just what I do. I'm just like, it's become very easy for me as adults to just let people believe whatever they're going to believe, whether it's a debate of science or a debate of my personal reputation. I don't care. Like, I've just turned into a very lethargy might not be the right word, but it's just like I've just distanced myself from what others think, because that we can't get. You try to control that, then you're trying to control entropy, and that's impossible. We can't control the chaos of the world. All we can do is, guide our own lives and make our own decisions.
Yeah, it's very true, and it does help to hear stuff like that. It really does. Because, and what you were just talking about, I have always been a target for people to blame me on things. It doesn't matter if it was friends, even if it's even strangers. I've always been a target for people to blame me for things and be like, yeah, no, it was her fault. It was because of her. And I'd be like, well, how? I didn't do anything. And I did learn after a while that it is pointless to try to go to everybody and be like, hey, I heard you heard this. This isn't true. Like, when I first moved to my town when I was young, people were angry at me because apparently the popular girl lived in that house and moved out, and somehow that was my fault. So they would constantly try to hurt me really bad. They would like throw rocks at me and stuff and would make up rumors about me. Like there was this one rumor that they said that me as an 8-year-old put someone in a headlock and hit them over the head with a brick. And I remember just sitting there like, what? I did not do that. I would have never done that. I like, what? And everyone believed it. Everyone. And no matter how many times I tried to tell people that's not true, because the popular girl said it, of course it had to be true. If you get what I mean there, it's just like they were the popular one, so obviously their opinion mattered more than mine. And I would constantly be attacked and stuff, and eventually I just stopped going outside because I knew if I went outside, people would try to hurt me. And I didn't understand why, because it doesn't make sense that just because the popular girl moved out, it wasn't my fault. It was her parents' fault for making them move. And my family just so happened to move into that house. That doesn't mean it was my fault she left, but they certainly thought it was.
You've been through a lot, it sounds like.
Yeah, I've talked to you about a bunch of it. Like I have really bad issues with self-harm. I have issues with alcohol. I have a lot of stuff that goes on in my head. And it's just, sometimes it's not easy to exist. And a lot of the times I ask myself if it's worth it to be alive. And most of the time the answer is no. And I still try anyways, even though I really think that there's no point in me being alive. I still try. I try to find a reason to tell myself I belong here, but everything in my head, like the voices, my own self-voice, all of it just tells me that I should die. And I fight that every day, and I don't talk about it to everyone around me, but that's like a constant battle. Like a battle of, should I be alive or should I not? And like I've even reached a point where like when I go to take my medications for the day, if too many of them spill out, I make a joke to myself going, well, guess it's the day I overdose. But I don't actually do it, obviously, but I think about it for a hot second. I struggle a lot with feeling like I belong here.
Well, now I'm understanding why the unsupportive friends and family, as you led with a positive update saying that you'd identified a career path that really excited you and gave you a sense of meaning and purpose, and then you went into we kind of slowly went into more negative things, beginning with your parents and friends not being supportive of that dream for numbers of reasons. And
sorry if you heard that, an alarm went off. My bad.
It was okay. And now you're mentioning that you're still dealing with some suicidal thoughts. I'm glad to hear that you've ignored those and kept going to the extent that such an extent that you've even done work to figure out to open up a potential job that would really excite you. And when you said you're struggling with figuring out how to find reason to live, whenever I hear that, I like to talk about comparative advantage. Do you know that term?
No, I don't think so.
It's kind of a cold economic term, actually, but it means so much. It's like there's entire books written about comparative advantage. It's a term that means it's basically a basis for trade. It says that it's a basis for free trade, meaning you're going to be really good at teaching Korean, and I'm going to be really good at, I don't know, making YouTube videos, I guess. And you're gonna watch my videos sometimes, and when I need to learn Korean, I'm gonna pay you to teach me Korean. To use an example, that's how comparative advantage works. I'll never have the drive or the passion for learning foreign languages, like someone like you will. And our comparative advantages give us meaning. They give us a sense of purpose when we when we feel like we have nothing left. Now, I'm not saying that's all life is about. I'm not saying life is all about work, but I am saying, like, I'm noting here that you started this call with a positive update, and I heard the excitement in your voice, and then you kind of went into the negative trade-off of that your friends and family weren't supportive, and then we slowly got deeper into the can of worms to the point that you mentioned that you were still dealing with suicidal thoughts, and maybe some of that comes with your schizophrenia. I don't know. I don't know what that's like.
It does, because of the voices telling me to do it. I
So it sounds
definitely
like,
have a lot of voices that tell me that I'm better off dead.
well, that's not true. That's not true. If you were dead, there would be a void left in your wake, and that void would be felt by all who love you.
It's good to hear that from someone else, because I just internally have a lot of that going on. And it is like, I am very excited because I do finally feel like I am really on the right path. And that's the first time I've ever thought about that, because, like, to put things into perspective, when I was a teen and I thought about my future, I just saw black. I just saw this black void of nothingness because I didn't see a future for myself. Even it probably extended all the way until I was like 26, that I just saw this black void. But now, thinking about this path that I'm on, I do see a future. I actually see myself going places and doing things and
Great.
bettering myself. And
there we go.
that has
Now we're talking.
affected me a lot.
Now we're talking. Those voices that you hear in your head, that's not talking. Maybe it's a mutation of talking. I wonder if animals deal with schizophrenia, or I wonder if it's a byproduct of language. It's an interesting question, at least to me. But point is, like, those voices you hear in your head, that's not talking. What you're hearing in your head is not talking. Those are ideas.
Yeah, and sometimes those ideas can be tempting when I'm at my lowest. And I've been at my lowest a lot. But I do continue to try to push forward. Even when I felt like there was no purpose in my life, I still told myself, well, I've tried to die before. I've tried killing myself before, and it hasn't worked several times. Maybe there's a reason that I'm on this stupid planet. And then I found Korean and went, I think this is it. Because I've always wanted to make a difference and be there to, like, help people. And I feel like teaching people teaching people English in Korea would really benefit me.
Sorry, I butchered I totally butchered it with my example. I said you were going to teach me Korean, but you get the point.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Maybe you can teach me some English. I don't know.
But I definitely feel like I am on the right path. It just does suck that no one in my family feels that way. No one. And it's really hard to stay excited about it when my mother and father and even my sister don't support me. And it's like, why don't they care, I guess, that I feel like I'm on the right path? They've been telling me for years and years to find something that I love to do. And now that I've found something that I would really love to do, something that would be really fulfilling, they're just not there anymore. It's like it just did a complete 180. And instead of them being like, yeah, you can do it, they're like, no, this is bad. You shouldn't do that. This would require you to leave. This would require you to do all these different things. And it's like, but what if this is best for me?
There we have it. This would require you to leave. Maybe that's what it's about. Didn't you say you got a job interview?
Yeah, I am going to be getting a job interview.
So like,
And
who cares what your parents and friends think? That, in my view, that should excite you. Like, you are standing in the face of opposition. Nothing, I don't know, like maybe I'm sick in the head, but when somebody tells me, when somebody gives me that look in their eye, like, you're not going to do that, or you can't do that, or like I tell them an idea that I have for something, and they're like, that's not a good idea. I'm like, all right, now I'm going to show you. I love that feeling.
same,
I
I can be like that too.
I actually love that feeling. It doesn't get me down at all when somebody doesn't like an idea that I tell them about. Like, it just makes me all the more excited to go like show them what I'm talking about and be like, see, that's what I was trying to tell you. And it's actually earned me a lot of trust with a lot of people in my life over the last couple decades of doing that. I've made a lot of dear friends who at first didn't really understand certain things I said to them or certain things I said I wanted to do. And then after a couple decades, these people have just realized we've gotten to appreciate each other. And what those experiences have taught me is to extend a lot of grace to others when they're telling me about ideas that they have that I might not quite fully understand based on the words they're using. It's given me a lot of space to extend to others to just be like, I might not fully understand what they're saying, but I can at least identify the kernel of the little nugget that's in there and just be like, okay, yeah, I could see where you're going with that. And then you can always just tell them, now go make it. Now go show me.
Yeah.
So my point of going there is to say to you, like, maybe these experiences will build character in you. Maybe there's some positive ways to look at these setbacks, these challenges. For example, standing proudly in the face of opposition. I'm not saying be prideful or boastful, or go around gloating that you're, going to show everybody and tell them off. I'm just saying, like, oh, okay, like, a challenge accepted. All right, here we go. I mean, like, love him or hate him, this is what Elon Musk is so freaking good at. Love him or hate him, this is what he's so freaking good at. People tell that guy, they've told him his whole life, you're not going to do that. All right, here's PayPal. You're not going to do that. All right, here's Tesla. You're not going to do that. Okay, all right, here's SpaceX. You're not going to go to Mars. Okay, we'll be there by 2036 or whatever the year he's saying now. It's like, yeah, sometimes he's not the best at keeping his timelines, but he hasn't, like, failed at anything he's promised he's going to deliver on yet. Maybe the AI humanoid bot will be the first thing he fumbles. Who knows? But point being, like, maybe there's some positive ways to look at these things, and maybe you can just kind of meditate on that. Do you do any meditating?
I don't really meditate, but I do sit and try to, like, sometimes I'll just sit in silence and really think about things. But that can be really hard because, unfortunately, another honest truth about me is, while I am happy that I'm on the path that I think I should be on, when it comes to me as a person, I'm really miserable internally. And if I sit in silence by myself for too long, I kind of just burst out crying because that's just how I feel. So I don't really do meditation because I worry about that.
All right. Well, that leads me to a glowing review I will give to something that I think might be worth you at least checking out. I'm not telling you to buy anything, but I'm going to send you a link here for something that I love that has helped me so much. It's come up so many countless times on this stream. This is a guided meditation resource that I absolutely love. I cannot say enough good things about this. This takes all the work out of meditation. You pop in some headphones. You listen to this woman's incredibly soothing voice. She's a psychotherapist and author. Her name is Bella Ruth Naparstek. That's who I'm talking about. And you don't have to write anything down. I'm going to put it in the chat for you. Bella Ruth Naparstek. She's amazing. Her company is Health Journeys, and she is a baller. She's amazing. And she takes all the work out of meditation. You don't have to sit in silence. All of her meditations have themes. You buy them based on the topic. She has looks like she has a little over 50 of them here, and they all have different topics. One of them is like for overcoming alcohol and drug abuse. One of them is she has one on relieving asthma, for crying out loud. I'm looking at her list here. She has one on anxiety and panic. She has one on forgiveness and anger. I've done that one. That one's really good. It's helped me forgive a lot of people and just let go of things. Maybe that one would be good for you in dealing with your friend and all the being a target stuff.
Yeah, that would probably help.
And like I said, the best thing about this is you're not sitting in silence doing all the work of meditation on your own. You just listen to her voice. And they're anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour long. and depending on the length, they range from like $6 to $12. So I'm putting this in the chat for you. Bella Ruth Naparstek guided meditation. Typos. There you go.
I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, with
I'll
all the
have
with
to
all the
look
voice.
back at the stream without any sound, because if I can hear myself in the stream, even though no one else is going to know it's me, I don't know it's me, and I'm just like, oh, it's a little cringe.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe you'll learn to
I'll
overcome
look
that with
back
some
at
guided
this without,
meditation.
maybe. you could be right.
Can't say enough good things about Bella Ruth. She's amazing. Please call again anytime. Glad to hear some positive updates. Lean into the positive. I know like bad things are always going to happen in life. Problems are everywhere. Problems happen every day. Let's celebrate that you've done the work despite your setbacks to identify a career path that excites you, and not only that, but secure a job interview in a very desirable job position to get a job despite the pressure and the opposition by friends and family. You are a champion. I'm applauding you, and please call again. Give us an update as things progress. Call again anytime.
All right. Can I leave you with a quote from somebody before I go?
Sure.
A quote that's been really helping me, actually. I don't know if you've ever seen, I believe it was America's Got Talent or something, but the girl's name was Nightbird, and she left this amazing quote saying, "You can't wait for life to stop being hard to decide to be happy."
That's a beautiful quote. There you go. You said it. Now meditate on that. And go through that link I sent you in the chat for Bella Ruth Naparstek and look at there's like 7 pages of guided meditations. They're all by theme or topic. Just maybe look at 1 or 2, read the descriptions and see if they sound like they might help you. They've helped me. They've helped dozens of people in our community. And I cannot say enough good things about the work she does. I'm hoping it is as valuable for you as it has been for us.
I will definitely look into it, and I will definitely call back at another point with more updates. Maybe to even tell you I got a job. Who knows?
Sounds great. I'm hoping for the best. Looking forward to that. Take care of yourself.
You as well.
Good night. All right, chat. We got... Oof. Wow. I said I was going to go late, but yeah, here we go. We're going to take one more call. Here we go. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hi. Oh, wow. I didn't think I was going to actually get in this time. Hi. So
Can we start with your age and a brief intro?
Yeah. I'm 26. I've been having a lot of problems as of recently, and well, one of the biggest problems is like I had a very bad breakup with my girlfriend, and well, that led to me being arrested and only spending like a month in jail for that as well.
What happened?
Well, the thing is, well, I don't really know what happened. That's something that's actually confusing me. And when I talk to my therapist about it, it's like she says like, you know, I have to live with the fact that I might not never know why it happened. But how things had the breakup happen, it's like, well, one day I was going to go to Italy with my sisters and my aunts.
Oh, wait, did you just say a location? Don't say any locations. It sounds like I don't think you confirmed you went there, but no locations. Just say you were traveling or something like that.
Oh, okay. So I was traveling, and well, the day before I was traveling, my now ex-girlfriend and I were in good terms and everything. She was telling me that she loved me, that she cared about me a lot, and that she, you know, was happy to have me. The next day I travel and I get to my destination, and all of a sudden, like, things just start to deteriorate. I don't know why, but it's like all of a sudden she wanted to break up with me. From there on, it's like I'm stuck, somewhere else that's not home, where I don't know what's going on. She starts to ignore my text messages and things like that. All of a sudden, she starts blocking me and everything. And all of a sudden, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking really out. It's like, what did I do? What happened? What's going on? Eventually, I make it back home, and all of a sudden, it's like, I start spiraling down. And I start trying to find each and every way that I could contact her, and I could talk to her, and I can just, get some sort of like idea what's going on and why she's doing all these things. And well, eventually, you just I start to get more desperate. I start to try to see if maybe I can contact her over the phone, or I start sending letters to her home. I try to, do anything that I can do to try to contact her and follow social media and things like that. And well, I now in retrospect, it's like I did do a lot of things that have seemed very uncomfortable to her and her family. I do think that I made her afraid of me when I was not trying to do that at all. All I really just wanted was answers from her and get some kind of closure from why she was acting this way and why she decided all of a sudden, like, break up with me when we were together for like 6 months.
So she said she wanted to break up, and you didn't know why, and you started sending letters to her house, and I guess that freaked her out. But
Yeah.
what? Did you have a blackout? Did you suffer some kind of memory loss? What is it that caused you to not remember what sent you to jail?
Oh no. So what sent me to jail is that eventually she, it was my willingness and my defiantly of like me trying to contact her and trying to talk to her and trying to find any way that I could talk to her. That eventually, sending letters to her home, and not only just sending letters to her home, but also just delivering letters myself to her home. And eventually, she put a protective order against me. A protective order is just a restraining order.
Right.
It's just different places call it different things. But she put a protective order against me.
And you broke the protective order?
Violated it. Huh?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I violated it once. I didn't. Well, at first, I never knew she put a protective order against me, but apparently she did. And I violated it once, and I was let go after a couple minutes, like just the intake. But after that, it seems like my parents are saying that I contact her. Her parents are saying that I contact her. She's saying that I contact her. I don't have any recollection of me contacting her, but it was apparently via text that I contacted her. And that sent me to prison. And didn't send me to prison. I'm sorry. It sent me to jail. It's different. It sent me to jail because it's a misdemeanor. It wouldn't send me to prison, but it sent me to jail.
I was about to ask. So you don't remember sending her a text message, but she claims you did, and it sent you to jail?
Yeah, it did. And
Did you check your text thread? When you open your text thread, do you see a text to her?
No, I don't. Well, now I can't even text. I can't even check because, first of all, I changed my phone number. She changed her phone number. And my mother had my phone when I was in jail, and she deleted each and every message that I had exchanged with her. All throughout my 6 months of meeting her, of being with her.
Okay. So, but you claim you didn't text her.
Yeah, I claimed that I didn't text her. I spoke to my lawyer and I spoke to him. Like, I said I didn't text her.
It's kind of unfortunate your mom deleted all that.
Yeah.
Why would she do that?
I think that the thing that she deleted her for was for me not to be thinking about all those memories and all those things that, the breakup.
I see. She was saying, she was recognizing that you were having a hard time letting go, so she just deleted everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Like my mom she's not a bad person.
You didn't know that sorry, go ahead. I'm stepping on you.
My mom and my stepdad love me very much, and they've been with me throughout all this. And I do feel kind of bad for them because I feel like I've been such a little pain to them, to be honest. But I know they love me very much, and I love them too.
So let me get this straight. You freaked out because you didn't know why your girlfriend wanted to break up, and it sounds like I hear a lot of regret in your voice towards the initial episodes of sending her letters and texting her and trying to contact her. I hear a lot of am I sensing that right? Like if you could, it sounds like you wish you would take that back and do that differently.
Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna lie, I do every day.
But I also hear you saying, let me go to bat for you, because what I hear you saying is that I've asked you multiple times, and I don't have any reason to believe that. I mean, your story is very interesting because it would make sense why your parents would just want you to just forget this girl, and maybe they didn't think about the implications of how those text messages could have helped you from going to jail. So that's what it sounds like happened. But my question to you is it possible that this girl was not happy? Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. If I understand correctly, you had these episodes where you were sending all these text messages and stuff, and then she filed a protective order, but you didn't understand there was a protective order. Is that right?
No, I didn't know that she filed a protective order until I was arrested for the first time.
And that's why they let you go after just a couple minutes. They sent you home with a warning.
Yeah.
And then, so my question to you is it possible that she wasn't happy they let you go, and so she fabricated a story that you sent her a text message?
It's feasible, but it's also feasible that I could have contacted her. Because I mean, like, my mom and dad are saying that it's very likely that I did contact her, and I don't remember that I contacted her because of my medications and the medications that I'm taking. There's also a likeliness that she probably did. She does have borderline personality disorder. There's also a possibility that maybe it was not her idea, but maybe her parents' idea. Mostly her mom, I want to say. That could have been a possibility. The reality of it, it's like I can't say definitely, like, who did it or who didn't do it. I want to say that did it. I did it because I have a hard time believing that she might want to hurt me that way. But at the same time, it's like my therapist is saying that, there's a very high probability that I'm not completely all to blame for everything that happened.
What is it you're on medication for?
Well, I have I've been diagnosed for 3 things so far. I have clinical depression, I have anxiety disorder, and I have post-traumatic stress disorder.
I see.
And I also have from all those things, I have really bad insomnia. That makes it very hard for me to go to sleep. Which is
Okay.
actually kind of amazing that actually I'm able to talk to you, because I've been trying to catch your streams. I found them very insightful. But I'm not usually awake at this hour.
I see. So it sounds like you actually think it's possible that you did contact her but don't remember it. That would make sense with the
Yeah.
insomnia and probably the PTSD. I don't know enough about. I've heard that a lot of people with severe PTSD struggle with things like that, and I've never experienced insomnia, but that a lot of that tracks. So I hear you. I hear the voice of someone who's being very open and honest, and I don't know what the answer is for you, but I'm really sorry to hear your story. I hear the regret in your voice. I hear the pain in your voice. I wonder how you're feeling about it. How do you feel about? What are you feeling? What is it that would make this a good call?
So I guess the hardest problem is I can't seem to let her go. I mean, she and I have no contact whatsoever now, but doesn't mean I have to stay away from her. But it's there's always this. Sorry, my dog just started to make. I hope that's not coming through. Yeah, I have a hard time letting go. I genuinely, she was someone that I genuinely care about a lot. I like to think that maybe she still loves me as much as I love her. I mean, the last time that I spoke to her, she said very hurtful things to me. She said that she hated me, that I was disgusting, and that she never wanted to see me again, which didn't make sense to me because, she was telling me that she loved me weeks before, and I just wish I could speak to her again and trying to find out what everything went wrong. Do talk to my therapist a lot about it.
What does your
I like
therapist
to
say
say,
about that?
she says that eventually it will get easier. It's been months, and I can't stop thinking about her. Because the reality of the matter is, I like to think that the reality of the matter is that she and I love each other as much as we could love each other. But we both had a lot of mental health problems. She had mental health problems. I had mental health problems. And we got in a relationship that was very intense, very quick. And perhaps, that's where things went wrong. And it wasn't that we didn't love each other. It was just our heads were silly. And things got ruined that way. Now I just live with regret. I live with pain. I'm afraid that something might happen to her, that she might not be okay. I'm afraid that she might be hurting herself again. And I wish I could talk to her again.
Doesn't sound like that would be a good idea.
I know, I can't at all.
It sounds like I think I agree with your
wishful
therapist.
Yeah.
That it'll It'll get easier in time. It might take years. It might take. Let's play a hypothetical scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're right. Let's say you're right. I'm not saying you're right. I don't want to feed this dream, because this dream is clearly not good for you. You went to jail, my friend.
I know.
But let's just say, let's question that thought that you guys were meant to be. Even if that's true, that you guys were just not mentally sound at the time and that got in the way. Even if that were true, all signs are indicating right now that it's time for this thing to die. And yeah, sometimes things can be reborn after death, but only after it fully dies. I'm not talking about like raising an animal from the dead or a person from the dead or something like that, like a miracle. I'm saying like, like from the ashes rises the phoenix, that kind of idea. The phoenix doesn't come out of the ashes until the thing has turned into ashes, until it's dead.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to encourage you to lean into it being okay for this thing to die, whatever that means, and to really let it die. I mean, you've got an order saying it has to die. So what else can you do but just wake up and tell yourself every day whenever that thought creeps up that, nope, it's time for this thing to die. It's dead. She's out of my hands. Whatever she's doing right now is out of my hands. And that is what your therapist means when she says it'll get easier in time. That's what it sounds like, at least. Like, you'll get better at reminding yourself of that to the point where you won't think about it anymore. And I'm not encouraging you to let it die for a delusion that you might get back together. I want to be explicitly clear. I'm saying, like, whatever you have to tell yourself to really let it die, it sounds like that's your only option here.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure how to do that. I guess I'm just trying to hold something that I know I can have.
I hear you. I'm thinking of 2 books. Would you check out 2 books? I'm not telling you to go buy them, but if I send you some Goodreads links, will you read the descriptions, and I'll give you my brief take on what these books mean, and then would you at least read the Goodreads links and consider reading these? I think these might be on point for you, to at least just look at. Does that sound interesting?
Sure.
Are you interested in a book?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is a book I'm reading right now. This one is not an easy read. This is the first one I'm talking about. This is not an easy read, but this is about dealing with trauma. This is about dealing with diagnoses. It's written by a clinical psychologist, Gabor Mate. I love this guy to pieces. This guy is a national treasure of Canada. I don't live in Canada, but that's where he lives. And he has written so many books. He's like 80 years old, and he was a medical doctor for the first couple decades of his life, I believe, for the first couple decades of his career, I mean. And now he's a clinical psychologist. He got into clinical psychology because he realized that he was overprescribing medications as a medical doctor, and that he wasn't alone. Like, a lot of medical doctors were overprescribing medications. And I want to be very clear. I realize you're on medications. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not questioning that you're on medication. I think, and even Gabor Mate talks about in this book, the benefits of medications in certain situations. But this is a book, he has a radical idea on what trauma is and how to deal with it. He talks a lot about in this book how diagnoses are a circular argument. Like, how do we know someone has ADHD? Well, because they have poor impulse control, they can't sit still, and they can't always think straight. Why do they have poor impulse control, and why can't they sit still, and why can't they think straight? Well, because they have ADHD. and it just goes round and round and round. He talks about this in the book and how like this is how so many things get diagnosed, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And this book talks a lot about a different approach to dealing with trauma and diagnoses that he developed. I think a large portion of it he developed. Some of it's a synthesis of the work of other clinical psychologists who think similarly to him about things like trauma and the kind of diagnoses you're talking about. And I know you already know this, but just be explicitly clear in case anybody's watching this. It's already plastered all over the place, but I am not a psychologist. I'm just fascinated with this stuff, and I read a lot about it. So I'm regurgitating some stuff that I'm reading. We do that sometimes here. This book I'm talking about is called The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. It's written by Gabor Mate. Gabor Mate with his son. He co-wrote it with his son, Daniel Mate. And I'm putting this link in the chat for you. It's not an easy read. It's almost 700 pages. But this book is blowing my freaking mind. This book is blowing my mind. I cannot give this book a big enough endorsement. This book is incredible. I believe in 100 years, we'll probably look back on this book and say, like, why didn't this book exist a century before? It's a radical take on what we talk about when we talk about the kind of diagnoses that you're describing. And I don't claim to know. I've done zero work on this stuff. It's just a amazing book that is blowing my mind. And this guy is incredible. Just go read the biography of Gabor Mate, and then read the Goodreads description of that book. And the second book is a book I believe is a great follow-up book to that one, because this is a book that it's written by another psychologist named Carolyn Elliott, and she actually has a retreat that you can buy a seat for to attend, and she'll work with you through your trauma. So I believe these two philosophies that Gabor Mate and Carolyn Elliott describe in these two books go hand in hand. And I read both of them. I actually read this book I'm talking about now is called Existential Kink. Funny title. Existential Kink: Unmask Your Shadow and Embrace Your Power. I'm putting this in the chat for you. I read Existential Kink first, but I would personally, if I could do it again, Gabor Mate's book wasn't out yet, but I would have read that one first if I could have, and then I'd read the second one, because the first one lays a lot of groundwork. I wish I had read that one first, but it wasn't out yet at the time. So those two books are in the chat for you. Those books are blowing my mind. I really believe pretty much anybody with any diagnosis of psychological diagnosis like ADHD or PTSD or bipolar or BPD even should read these books, because Gabor Mate suggests that these things actually come from trauma and that you're not born with it, which is what's so revolutionary. He suggests that we're not born with these things, but that we develop them through trauma and that they can be treated.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely I have lived my life with a lot of trauma. I mean, I recently died, not today, but like a year ago, I actually died. My heart stopped for 15 seconds because of a heat stroke. Yeah. Well, my staff sergeants were smart enough to start, doing what they could to make sure that I was not going to die. But my temperature was 110, and
wow.
It's definitely something that brought up. I guess just the fact of being in that kind of very awful thing that happened to me, trauma of what happened to me, just kind of also started to bring up a lot of other trauma that I had closed off, and then I had to put in a little box, and I had to bottle it up entire life, and now me and my therapist are going through the the unbottling and opening up all those things, and
Good.
eventually try to make sense of like why I acted this way when my girlfriend broke up with me and all that. But besides that, I mean, like, I wouldn't say my life is all that bad. I'm trying to get back on track. I'm taking my medications. I'm going to see my therapist, my psychiatrist as well. I've been applying for jobs, and I've gotten a lot of phone calls back. And
Good.
I've been going to church, and I've been very hardly trying to pray more. Despite the fact that I at one point I felt like I was very angry at God for everything that happened to me. But I appreciate your stream. I appreciate all you do, because you always seem to be good advice, or like good reads to help people. I hope that I could read both of those books, and I can just let all this pain of my girlfriend and I breaking up just, die completely and turn to ashes. And from there, try to make sense of my life and try to move on, or try to see where things go.
Am I understanding correctly that you were military? You said staff sergeant earlier.
Yeah, I was in Marine Corps. I was actually discharged after having that awful experience of me having to die in their hand.
Thank you for your service.
People always say that, but I never know what to say back. It's like fun, because I feel like a lot more people have done a lot more than me, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
I asked because there's another book, not to blow a fire hose of books at you, but I love this one so much. It's on my featured shelf back here. Hang
Sure.
on. This one's called Tribe. I've talked about it a few times on this stream. This is by Sebastian Junger. It's a very easy read. This might be a great book for you to start with. This is about reintegrating into the civilian life after being in the military. I bought this book because I have a lot of family who's been in the military, and I wanted to understand what it was like for them to, I can't fully understand because I've never been in the military, but I wanted to understand the headspace of somebody who is reintegrating into society after being in the military. It's a very short book. It's 135 pages. Very short. That's why I showed you how small it is. It's tiny. Might be a great book to start with because it's very short, and it might validate a lot for you. It might be a good place to start before you read a 700-page book by Gabor Mate. So, this let me put this one in the chat for you too. I've mentioned it to pretty much everybody who's called in from after military service with dealing with PTSD. I even recommended this to a couple of family members who had PTSD after being in the military, and they loved it so much they read it twice. So this seems to be a great book because I loved it, and I've never been military, and people who are military read it and seem to appreciate a lot about it. So I'm going to put the Goodreads link in here in the chat. I don't have this one saved in my I have a list of books that I commonly talk about here, but this one's not on it because it doesn't come up too often. But we've talked about it a number of times. Let's see here. Where do I find this? Here it is. Sebastian Junger, Tribe. Going in the chat for you now. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling and being real. I'm wishing you all the best. Keep up the good work in therapy and working on yourself. And call again anytime. Wishing the best for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julian. You're awesome. I'm glad you made all of this for your fans and people out there.
This is for anybody and everybody. great to hear from a fan, though. I appreciate the support.
Oh wait, I actually wanted to I really like one of your songs. I think it's I think it's an EP that you call the B side.
B Story. Yeah, B Story.
Yeah, this story. Yeah, it's I can't remember the name of the song. Just let me look it up real quick. It's I've been listening to it because I felt when I was down in the more times breaking up with the breakup kind just it helped me.
The breakup song on the album? You talking about back then?
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a breakup song.
Yeah, that's all.
I appreciate the support and the kind words. Always good to hear. And
can you
wish
say
you the
the
best.
thing?
What's that?
Can you say the thing? I made this for you. You don't have
I'm
to
not gonna
scream
do. I'm not gonna do that here. This isn't about me, and I appreciate the support, but I'm not gonna taint the stream with an "I made this for you." But
fair enough.
but I really do appreciate you calling. You can call again anytime.
Will do. Thank you, Julian. You have a great night.
You too. Good night. Amazing stream, guys. I see that from Ian Rudolph. This is not therapy. I'm not a therapist. It's amazing. I try to plaster that everywhere and just let people know, this is just a place where people can talk. You can consider me a payphone calling a random stranger. That's what this is. I'm not qualified to give, advice or, prescriptions or anything like that. But we talk about books here and just let people vent. But yeah, this is a beautiful stream. We do these streams twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We also have a Discord server with, I almost said a Discord channel, but there are dozens of channels in the server now. There's channels for just hanging out. There's channels for video games. There's channels for watch parties. There's channels for sharing food recipes, talking about your pets, posting pet pictures. I threatened to post some pictures of my kids in there. It was a joke. We're not going to open a child channel. That would be too much. But yeah, we have several channels. There's also a bunch of support channels in there. None of us are therapists. These are just people who want to be good friends and are down to talk about difficult stuff or deep topics. And so it's a really cool place, totally free. We welcome anyone to join. Link is in the description. And keep your eyes peeled here. There's a lot coming on the channel in the next week and a half. I'm very tired, but I'm also excited. And all the wink winks. I was really curious when I realized we were on episode 69, how many Elon Musk jokes there were going to be. There were way more than I even imagined. Goodness gracious. You guys are nuts. Good night, everybody. See you on Thursday in a couple days. See you then. Good night.